The sun crested the ridge, casting a warm glow over the Montana Badlands as Clara stepped out from her weathered cabin. A chipped mug swung loosely in her grip, her breath visible in the chilly dawn air. 10 years in this rugged wilderness had honed her instincts for the unpredictable, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to unfold. The scent of pine and damp earth filled the air as Clara's eyes caught a flicker of movement on the horizon. Not the rustle of sagebrush in the wind, not a hawk's shadow gliding across the ground. A lithe, tawny figure with distinctive black tufts and spotted fur moved toward her. A bobcat, the embodiment of stealth and agility, but its steps were heavy, deliberate. Clara's heart raced. Years of studying wildlife couldn't quell the instinct to step back, yet something in the bobcat's demeanor held her still. Its amber eyes gleamed not with threat, but with urgency, a mother's silent cry. In her jaws she carried a kitten, its small form limp, blood staining its spotted coat, a jagged wound across its side. The faint rise and fall of its chest signaled life clinging on. The bobcat stopped just shy of the cabin's porch, her eyes meeting Clara's in a wordless, piercing exchange, not predator and human, but two beings tethered by the delicate thread of survival. With careful precision, she placed the kitten on the worn wooden steps. A faint mewl escaped as it touched the boards. The mother stepped back, her gaze unwavering, issuing a silent plea, "Save my child." Logic urged Clara to close the door, call the wildlife service, anything but act. Yet a deeper pull, empathy that crossed the divide of species, drew her forward. Kneeling cautiously, eyes locked on the mother bobcat, she examined the kitten. Its breaths were shallow, its eyes dim with pain. The wound, raw and torn, bore the marks of a male bobcat's teeth, likely an attempt to eliminate the kitten and bring the mother back into estrus, a harsh reality of a wild Clara knew all too well. "It's all right," Clara whispered, though the words fell hollow. Without help, the kitten wouldn't survive the hour. She slipped off her flannel jacket, wrapping it gently around the trembling form, and lifted it. The mother bobcat let out a low rumble, enough to prickle Clara's skin, but she didn't move closer. Instead, she settled onto the porch, a vigilant sentinel, as Clara carried the kitten inside. In that moment, their paths converged, and the story was only beginning. Inside the cabin, time stretched thin. Clara laid the kitten on a sturdy table, morning light spilling through the window, highlighting its blood-matted fur. The wound gleamed with fresh and clotted blood. Her hands trembled as she reached for the faded first aid kit. Every second was a race against death. The satellite phone hummed as she dialed. 3 rings. 4. 5. Each felt like a lifetime. "Jake here," a gravelly voice answered. Clara's words tumbled out, steady despite the kitten's fading breaths. Jake's instructions were curt. Clean the wound, stop the bleeding, keep it warm, give fluids, basic measures to hold on to life. "I'll call Mara," he said. "She's at the conservation outpost an hour away. Keep the kitten alive until she arrives." An hour. 60 agonizing minutes. Outside, the mother bobcat kept her watch, her amber eyes catching Clara's through a sliver in the window, unflinching, trusting, yet fierce. In a decade, Clara had never seen a predator place such faith in a human, their ancient adversary. She dripped warm sugar water into the kitten's mouth with a dropper. Its tiny tongue stirred faintly, a spark of resistance against death. Clara's pulse matched each fragile swallow. The growl of an engine shattered the quiet. Mara's truck screeched to a halt, kicking up dust. Through the window, Clara saw her pause at the sight of the mother bobcat, unguarded by barriers or sedatives. Mara moved with a veteran-esque calm, her steps measured, eyes fixed on the bobcat. "I've heard tales," she murmured as she stepped inside, her brown eyes wide at the scene. Clara beside a fading kitten, the mother watching from outside. "But I never believed I'd see it." Mara's medical bag clicked open. Syringes, vials, bandages. She worked with steady hands, injecting antibiotics, suturing the wound. "Ceftriaxone," she said. "Broad spectrum. Should fight infection." The kitten twitched at the needle's sting, a flicker of life. "Male bobcat attack," Mara confirmed. They kill kittens to force the mother to mate. Cruel, but that's the wild. Clara glanced at the mother bobcat, still a stone. She knows we're helping, she said. Mara nodded, her hands never pausing. Maybe. Or maybe she's got no other choice. But she chose you, Clara. As the sun sank, painting the Badlands in hues of fire, the cabin glowed with dusk. Mara packed her tools. Tonight's make or break, she said. If she pulls through, she's got a chance. The mother bobcat remained, her silhouette etched against the fading light, as Clara and Mara stood guard over the fragile life, bound by a trust as untamed and fleeting as the wilderness itself. Clara gazed at the bobcat kitten, so fragile in the soft nest she'd fashioned from blankets. Its breathing, though still faint, had stabilized, its tiny amber eyes flickering open occasionally, taking in an unfamiliar world. As Mara's truck rumbled away, darkness enveloped the Montana Badlands. Clara lit a kerosene lamp, its warm glow carving a sanctuary in the chilly night. Outside, the mother bobcat remained, her eyes gleaming like twin embers in the shadows. The night stretched on, punctuated by the kitten's soft breaths and the distant calls of owls. Clara didn't sleep, her hand resting gently on the kitten to feel its warmth, to confirm its tiny heart still pulsed. Each hour felt eternal, every faint stir or weak mule spiking her fear that it might be its last. But as dawn's first light filtered through the window, the kitten endured, not just alive, but stronger. Its eyes opened clearer, responding to Clara's careful touch. A quiet warmth spread through her, not victory, but wonder at the kitten's stubborn grip on life. Outside, the mother bobcat stood, alert, as if sensing the change. Clara eased the door open, mindful not to disturb the sleeping kitten. Their eyes met, human and bobcat, bound by something beyond instinct or logic. "She's still with us," Clara whispered, her voice rough from exhaustion and emotion. "I think she's going to make it." The mother bobcat stood motionless, her spotted coat glowing in the Montana dawn. Then, in a moment Clara would never forget, she slowly blinked, a silent, wordless acknowledgement. 3 days passed in a haze. 3 days of antibiotic injections, sugar water dripped with care, sleepless nights by the flickering lamp. The mother bobcat never strayed far from the porch, slipping into the darkness only briefly to return with small prey, signs of hurried hunts between her vigil. Clara's world narrowed to the space between her cot and the table where the kitten grew stronger. On the fourth morning, a shift emerged. As Clara changed the bandage, the kitten stirred, not with weary compliance, but with a gentle defiance. Its amber eyes, now alert, followed her hand. When she touched its injured leg, a soft hiss escaped, not pain, but a spark of wild spirit rekindling. The wound remained serious, and Mara, visiting daily with medicine and expertise, grew solemn. "We need x-rays," she said. A fractured shoulder could mean a life in captivity for a creature born to roam. The nearest clinic with x-ray equipment was at the Ranger Outpost, a rough 2-hour drive over rocky trails. But the mother bobcat posed a dilemma: how to convey to a wild predator that her kitten must be taken for its own survival. As if reading her thoughts, the mother rose, her eyes tracking every move through the window, her tawny coat catching the sunlight like burnished bronze. With the transport crate prepared, Clara stepped onto the porch, heart thudding. The mother bobcat tensed, muscles taut, but her gaze held no aggression. Words were futile, only tone and intent bridged the gap between species. Her unblinking eyes judged each action as Clara lifted the kitten, who mewed softly as it left its blanket. The mother shadowed them, never more than a few meters away, pausing as the crate was secured in the truck. Her ears twitched, senses sharp, bound by fragile trust. The drive was a grueling gauntlet of dust and jolts, each bump fueling Clara's fear for the kitten's wounds. 10 years in the Badlands, and she'd never witnessed such faith, a mother bobcat entrusting her kitten to humans. At the clinic, the atmosphere was stark, cold x-ray machines, steady beeps of monitors. The diagnosis came fractured shoulder, fixable with a pin and months of recovery, but hope for full rehabilitation. Surgery took 2 agonizing hours, Clara unable to sit, eat, or think beyond the kitten on the operating table and the mother waiting back home. Post-surgery, the kitten slept in a recovery cage, a brace securing its leg. One night of monitoring was needed, so Clara returned alone, the Montana sunset painting the sky in hues of fire, an ache in her chest. Why had the mother chosen her? Had she observed Clara, judged her, or was it a desperate gamble? The porch was empty when she arrived. No trace of the mother bobcat, no response to Clara's soft calls into the night. Under the star-filled sky, hope dimmed. She hadn't returned. The next morning, Clara drove back to the clinic, heart heavy. The kitten was awake, eyes brighter, lapping minced meat from a syringe, a tiny fighter. With proper care, it could fully recover. On the drive home, Clara wondered if the mother had given up, believing her kitten lost, or accepted that its fate now rested with humans. Pulling into the yard, the mother's absence was palpable. But as Clara set the crate inside, placing the kitten on its familiar blanket, a realization struck. The mother hadn't abandoned her kitten. She'd entrusted it, an act of profound faith. Perhaps instinct told her the kitten's injury barred it from the wild, that survival meant staying with this human who hadn't turned away. Days fell into a rhythm. Remote work at the laptop, the kitten exploring the cabin from its blanket, daily calls with Mara and Jake, bandage changes, meals of ground meat. Each night, Clara left the door ajar, not from naive hope, but respect for the mother's choice. In the second week, the kitten stood on all four legs, its wobbly steps a testament to its fierce will to live, echoing the trust that had transformed Clara's world forever. A soft growl rumbled as the kitten, now named Sable, meaning graceful in the local dialect, spotted a sparrow darting past the window, her hunting instincts flickering to life. Word of Clara raising a bobcat kitten spread through the hamlets of the Wyoming Bighorn Basin. Locals came first with caution, then intrigue, and finally awe. The story of a mother bobcat entrusting her kitten to a human wove through gatherings, becoming a fireside tale. Wildlife researchers arrived with cameras and queries, but no theory could fully explain the phenomenon. This isn't typical bobcat behavior, they stated. It's a rare exception to nature's laws. By the third month, Sable had grown into a spirited, agile creature. Her wound had healed, leaving a faint scar and a subtle limp that did little to dampen her vigor. From a frail patient, she'd become a lively presence in the cabin, bursting with curiosity and energy. But the day came for a wrenching decision. Sable couldn't stay in the cabin forever. She needed space, a place suited to her wild essence. Mara and Jake had secured a spot in a private sanctuary, a semi-natural refuge, neither fully wild nor captive. The morning of departure was thick with emotion. The sanctuary's truck idled outside the porch, awaiting its precious passenger. Sable, sensing the shift, prowled the room, her amber eyes sharp with alertness. Clara knelt for a final moment beside the blanket that had been her haven in those early days, her hand lingering behind Sable's ears, her favorite spot. Their bond, forged in the crucible of life and death, defied words. As Sable was guided to the truck, a fleeting shadow caught Clara's eye, unmistakable, the mother bobcat, watching from a distance. She'd returned to witness her kitten's new chapter. No one else saw her. No one else caught the faint rustle of sagebrush carrying her scent. But for Clara, it was a final, silent affirmation. The truck pulled away, stirring up dust as it carried Sable to her new home. Clara stood alone on the porch, eyes fixed on the horizon where the mother bobcat had vanished. One chapter closed, another began, but the lessons of this extraordinary encounter would linger. In the rugged Bighorn Basin, where survival is relentless, a mother bobcat had placed her trust in human hands. In doing so, she revealed a profound truth. Sometimes, nature turns to humanity for aid, and all we can do is respond with our whole heart, forging a connection that transcends species and speaks to the boundless power of compassion and trust.